I'm going over the blocking of Scream, learn how directors position actors and the camera to get in the head of their audience. I'll be breaking down how to set up fear, danger, and much more. Show the audience a danger while keeping an on-screen character oblivious, and you've got the audience wanting to yell a warning at the screen.
There he is. I told you he's right around the corner.
This moment is Wes Craven going meta on that, which is called dramatic irony. Blocking a character with his back turned to his vulnerability, and you set this up perfectly. Danger doesn't just have to be the killer, it can be showing where the killer might be coming from, the possibility. Not only does tilting the camera make things uneasy, it also reveals the open hallway, the first setup for the rising action of the scene.
I told you he's right around.
Then the rising tension is directly tied to the proximity of the slowly creeping killer.
Jamie.
This slowly building of the audience screaming at the TV for Jamie to look behind him is like pulling back a spring.
I'll turn behind you. Behind Jamie. Jamie, turn around. Oh!
But the pent-up energy is all spent on the TV. Our character Jamie is saved. You don't get a second climax for this build-up. In the beginning of the movie, Barrymore gets the first call from the killer.
Hello?
Yes?
This shot is very intentionally close up. Just to screen right is an obstructed view of the living room, which we aren't allowed to see because it would show a way the killer could come from, show her as a vulnerable, and we aren't there yet. This call is just an accident at this point. That is the moment this changes. Barrymore purposely strides away from the phone so the event of the repeated call feels all the more forceful, intrusive, stopping her, changing her momentum, and making her turn around. Even the camera pushing in strengthens the beat, with a double tap of escalating tension, blocking, then a delayed camera move going beyond to follow. Just like before, the window shows a vulnerable spot, a place of danger and dramatic irony, but also answers a question the audience is asking themselves: where is this caller telling them he is outside? The tension is rising, the caller is closer than before. I'm going to dive deeper into the possibilities of having a vulnerability behind your character. How do you turn the seeded vulnerability into a jump scare? Go against the established vulnerability. Have the scare come from somewhere else. The key is to firmly establish the vulnerability the audience will be mistakenly focused on. Look how much of the frame that open doorway takes up. He's barely on the third. The light in the background is also key as brightness draws your attention. All this is needed so the audience can get into the headspace of danger while giving their curiosity a misdirect. Instead of cutting to a close-up or a wide, you can stay on the same shot and have the actors move closer or further from camera. This works for a Spielberg wonder, but for a horror, the slow approach won't do it for a jump scare. The deep hallway catches our attention, giving that much more of a surprise when we get a medium of the killer jumping out at us. This same technique can have multiple applications. That's part of the magic of smashing ideas together. In E.T., without the ambience of being stalked in Scream, and instead telling the audience E.T. has a physical connection with Elliot, having doctors coming from the sides supports the idea that Elliot and E.T. are separating sharply and E.T. is dying now. They cut in someone from the sides quickly, but for a different feeling, severing a connection versus a jump scare. You can even have the person or thing that cuts into frame be something the character would possibly see ahead and still get a surprise reaction.
We got time on this one, Jed. Mind going down and getting me a piece of cake they're eating down there?
But the character's surprised by what the action means, not what it is. That is happening while the director is surprising the audience with the off-screen intrusion itself. On screen, Jad is actually surprised by Anderton's suspicious behavior, while the audience is surprised by his hand coming from the side. They both feed off each other. One of the differences between a surprise and a jump scare is not only the speed something comes into frame, but also how much of the frame it takes up. Instead of revealing a danger, hiding a vulnerability can also jack up the tension. Let's analyze this Scream scene and break down how the director escalates tension and creates meaning in the first moment Sidney gets a call from the killer.
You tell me. Well, I have no idea.
Scary night, isn't it? With the murders and all, it's like right out of a horror movie or something.
Randy, you gave yourself...
It's not an accident why the camera has pushed wide and Sydney paces across frame instead of closer or further from camera.
I like that thing you're doing with your voice, Randy. It's sexy.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Oh, come on, you know I don't watch that shit.
Why not? Too scared.
So now when she approaches camera, it means something.
Some stupid killer stalking some big-breasted girl who can't act, who's always running up the stairs when she should be going out the front door. It's insulting.
It goes meta, as Sydney's dialogue talking about the typical victim in a horror is her talking about herself in this movie, and her approaching camera highlights that.
No, it's just what's the point? They're all the same. Some stupid killer stalking some big-breasted girl who can't act, who's always running up the stairs when she should be going out the front door. It's insulting.
Are you alone?
The change to handheld push-in on Sydney makes it feel like the camera is now the killer, upping the tension. Sydney's back-facing camera works on a few levels. 1, she's vulnerable from behind. 2, it gives her a moment to turn into the realization that she's talking to the killer.
Not Randy.
It's not an accident that early Barrymore is facing the door and camera when she gets the same handheld push-in. She knows she's being stalked, unlike Sydney, whose back is turned. All of these tools of escalating the tension have been building. It's not necessarily only about the tools themselves, but also how close they are to each other, having them closer together, and you are stepping up the audience steeper up the rising action curve. Cutting into a close-up is also an escalation, hence why a scene of 2 people sitting talking naturally escalates from a wide to a close-up. Going back to this scene. Wes Craven flips everything he set up with the killer being at the door on its head. He pushes the character into backing up to the familiar vulnerable window pane. Her backing up into danger escalates the tension while the camera keeps the same distance from her with a lingering threat from the door, putting the character in a corner, another excellent mixing of tools.
Get a strange noise or something.
Look, you've had your fun now, so I think you better just leave or else.
Or else what?
With a shot of us pushing away from the door, that threat is taken over, and we become more aware of the real danger behind her, the window she is oblivious to.
Boyfriend, and he'll be already stuck in, so your house better be cool.
Sure.
I swear. He's big and he plays football, and he'll kick the shit out of you.
I'm getting you scared. I'm shaking in my boots.
So you better just...
Just like here, I've talked in the past about how a camera pushing in mimics a rising action, and how in blocking when naturally a character comes toward camera, and they both stop for the climax.
Oh my God. They found me. I don't know how, but they found me.
They work in similar ways, which makes this moment from Scream particularly interesting. She's backing away from camera, the opposite of a camera push-in or a character approaching, so you wouldn't think tension escalates, but she's actually getting closer to something. The window, the danger. So her backing up in this case is the rising action when she stops and the yelling becomes the climax.
Your house better be cool.
Sure.
I swear. He's big and he plays football, and he'll kick the shit out of you.
But when her resisting gives way after this short-lived act of will, her retreat continues.
So you better just leave.
Thanks for watching my analysis on the blocking for Scream. Learn how directors manipulate tools to think like a director yourself.